Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Behold podcast on the Genre Equality channel. I'm Hitzir.
I'm Hadi.
This week, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite sports documentary films
Mhm.
of all time. Some of the sports documentaries that we want to highlight here include Steve James's iconic seminal 1994 basketball drama, Hoop
Mhm.
Dreams, alongside National Geographic's death-defying free climbing documentary Free
Mhm.
Solo. We'll be talking about ESPN 30 for 30's expansive, very detailed, very comprehensive documentary OJ Made in America.
Mhm.
And finally, since F1 season is here and F1 just wrapped up in Singapore, let's talk about Asif Kapadia's critically acclaimed documentary about the Formula One driver Senna
Senna.
called Senna from 2010.
Mhm.
Let's begin with Hoop Dreams, though. Man, Hoop Dreams is, in my opinion, one of the greatest sports documentaries ever made.
Mm.
It's it's a wonderful, wonderful 3 hour ish, right?
Yeah.
Documentary.
2 hours
Yeah, it's,
and 50 plus minutes.
right, right.
Yeah.
In my opinion, a film like Hoop Dreams is what movies are for. It takes us and it shakes us and it makes us think in new ways about the world around
Yeah.
us, especially the worlds that we are not privy to. Different corners of society and life.
Sure.
It gives us the impression of having touched life itself. Hoop Dreams is on one level a documentary about two African American kids
Teenagers.
named William Gates and Arthur
Yeah.
Agee from Chicago's inner
Yep.
city who are gifted basketball players and dream of someday starring in the
Mhm.
NBA. On another level, it is about much larger subjects. It's about ambition and competition,
Mhm.
race and class in
Mhm.
American society.
The
It's
American
about
Dream.
it's about the American dream. It's about the American value structures. It's about the daily lives of people like AG and Gates and their families who are usually invisible in the mass media. They live on the fringes
Yeah.
of society.
Yep.
But they also have a determination and resiliency that is a cause for hope. The movie spends 6 years in the lives of William and Arthur, starting when they are in eighth grade and continuing through their first year of
Yeah.
college. It was intended originally to be a 30-minute short film,
Mhm.
but as the filmmakers followed their two subjects, they realized that this was a much larger and longer story.
Mhm.
And so we are allowed to watch the subjects grow up during the movie. And this palpable sense of passage of time is like walking for a time in their shoes.
Yeah.
They literally put us in their shoes. It really feels immersive like
It
that.
does.
They were initially spotted during playground games by a scout for St. Joseph's High
Yep.
School in West Suburban Westchester, a basketball
Mhm.
powerhouse. Attending classes there will mean a long daily commute
Yep.
to a school with few other black faces,
Predominantly white high
uh,
school.
predominantly white. And there's never an instance when William or Arthur or their families doubt the wisdom of this opportunity. St. Joseph's, we hear time and again, is the school where another inner city kid named Isaiah
Yep.
Thomas started his climb to NBA stardom.
Detroit
You know,
Pistons. As yeah, Thomas.
yeah, of the infamous Bad
Bad boys.
Boys.
Yeah.
One image from the film, Gates who lives in the Cabrini Green projects and AG who lives in the Chicago South Side.
Mhm.
They get up before dawn on cold winter days to begin their daily 90-minute commute to
Yeah.
Westchester. The streetlights kind of like reflect off the hard winter ice, and we realize what a long road and just what plain hard work is involved in trying to get to the top of the professional sports pyramid. Other high school students or people of their age might go to career counselors
Mhm.
who steer them into likely professions. But Arthur and William are working harder, perhaps harder than anyone else in their schools for jobs which they are told only have a 0.00005% chance
Exactly.
of accomplishing.
Yeah.
We all know about the dream. We watch Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas and others on television, and we understand why any other kid with talent would hope to be out on the same court someday. But Hoop Dreams is not simply about basketball. It's about the texture and reality of daily existence
Mhm.
in a big American city. And as the film follows AJ and Gates through their high school and into their first year of college, we understand all the human dimensions behind the easy media stereotypes of life in the quote unquote ghetto.
Yeah.
This was a beautiful film about American society, and it came out in 1994.
Yep.
It pretty much changed the game as to what sports documentaries could be. They didn't just have to be sports. They didn't just have to be about sportsmen, but they could also address serious and very real social political issues affecting the day-to-day human lives of these people.
Yeah.
What do you think about Hoop Dreams, Hadi? Since you've just only recently seen it and it's been 30 or so years since it came out, do you think that this documentary has held up? And what are your overall opinions on the film?
It definitely has held up. I mean, in terms of the kind of socio-political issues that were raised in the film,
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same still in America. Like
Yep.
the struggles that both William Gates and Arthur Agee were going through,
Mm-hmm.
still going on in North America right now. Like it
Mm-hmm.
feels weirdly timely in the sense that, or rather, nothing much has changed since then, lah. In terms of
Mm-hmm.
equality, in terms of equity, lah. You
Equity,
know,
yes.
of being afforded the same opportunities and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
People who live in inner Chicago still have the same kind of problems, lah.
Yeah.
You know, the same kind of violence around them, the same kind of stigma attached to them. All that was raised in the documentary remains the same. Also, the hope, you know, the hope
Mm.
of getting out of there, the hope of that, of you know, playing for the NBA and all that is something that has never changed. You know,
Yes. For a lot of them, it's the only route,
correct.
out
You
of
know,
that life.
and
Yeah.
is that weird cliche, you know, where black talented black kids only can get out through sports or music, you know,
Yep.
and that's the kind of like, there's this certain sadness as I was watching it, lah.
Yeah. That this
Yeah,
is the only path. Yeah.
and you just feel like it's so unfair, but like there's just certain like you know, structural you know, structural problems within their society that just can't allow them to thrive, you know, in the
Mm-hmm.
way that they're supposed to, lah. You know,
Mm.
like, you know, by right, you know, their own, you know, the school that they're living nearby should already have a elite basketball program, you know.
Yes.
Why only this predominantly white high school far away in, like, I don't know, Westchester, Illinois, you know, where they
Mm-hmm.
have to travel so far away just to be part, you know, to just have a small slim chance of getting out of, you know, of their situation, lah. Yeah,
Correct.
so like Hoop Dreams really encapsulates all this kind of like just feeling of like hope that these two boys have, and at
Mm-hmm.
the same time this just deep sadness because now that it's 30 years on, right, and we see that, you know what, some things just don't change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it further saddens me also that like Arthur Agee didn't make it to the NBA, lah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
and so I don't think both of them didn't make it to the NBA.
No, like I said, there's a zero point zero
Yeah,
zero zero
you
zero
know,
five percent chance of any player making it to the NBA,
exactly,
regardless of how good they are.
exactly, you know.
Yeah.
Man, what a, but seriously, one of the best documentaries I've watched. I mean, just
Mm.
seeing them grow up, you know, and seeing them becoming from boys to men, that kind of thing.
I think ideally and particularly because it follows people who didn't make it.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually
yeah.
documentaries are about people like like later we'll talk about Alex
Sure,
Honnold or
sure.
Senna or Michael
Yeah,
Jordan. These are people who have already made it, and there's a heartwarming, inspiring, yeah, they
yeah.
made it, despite all the obstacles.
These are
But
people who
there's a
came
tension
really
here
close.
because we don't know them. Say again?
These are people who came really close to their dreams and all that, and just, you know, just couldn't get to the next level, lah. But
Yeah, yeah, and not because they didn't work
oh
hard or
no, no,
anything.
no, yeah. I mean, in the whole
Yeah.
documentary, you see how they progressed and how hard they put, how much effort they're putting into you know, making their dreams come true, lah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that is that. So therefore, there's this sense of hope, yet this sense of real great sadness as well, lah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But the sense of hope is actually really illustrated very well through the depiction of their families
Yes.
or the amount of footage that they got of their families and extended families
Yeah.
pulling together to help give these kids a chance. Like if one family member is going through a period of trouble, such as Arthur's father, who's fighting a drug problem,
Yeah.
others seem to rise to periods of strength.
Mhm.
How if some family members are unemployed, or if the lights get turned off, there is also somehow an uncle with a big backyard just right for a family celebration. We see how a strong black church structure provides support and encouragement, how it is rooted in reality. They accept people as they are, and they believe in redemption.
Yeah.
Some people just never gave up. Arthur's mother asks the filmmakers, do you ever ask yourself how I get by on $268 a month and keep this house and feed these children? Do you ever ask yourself that question?
Mhm.
And frankly, yes, they did. And yes, me as a viewer, I do as well. But another question is how she finds such determination and hope that by the end of the film, miraculously, she has completed her education as a nursing assistant as well, alongside all the other domestic familiar responsibilities that she has. Hoop Dreams, I think, in my opinion, contains more actual information about life as it
Yep.
is lived in a poor black city neighborhood than any other film I've ever seen,
Yeah.
at least up to this point. Because we see where William and Arthur come from,
Yeah.
we understand how deeply they hope to transcend,
Mhm.
to use their gifts to become pro
Mhm.
athletes. We follow their steps along the path that will lead, they hope, from grade school to the NBA. The people at St. Joseph's High are not pleased with the way they appear in the film. They actually filed suit,
Yeah.
saying, among other things, that they were told that the film would be a non-profit project to be aired on PBS and not a commercial venture.
Oh, it was.
The filmmakers responded that they too thought it would. That the amazing response, which found it in a theater, which gave it a theatrical release, is a surprise to them.
Yeah.
The movie simply turned out to be a
It
masterpiece,
was.
and its intended non-commercial slot was not big enough to hold it. The Saint Joseph suit reveals understandable sensitivity because not all of the Saint Joseph people come out looking like heroes,
No,
right?
no, obviously not. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's as clear as night and day that the only reason Arthur Agee and William Gates are offered scholarships to St. Joseph's in the first place is because they are gifted basketball players.
Yeah.
They are hired as athletes,
Mhm.
and as surely as if they were free agents in pro basketball, suburban high schools do not often send scouts to the inner city to find future scientists or teachers.
Exactly.
They send them to find basketball players.
Exactly. So like, come on,
Yeah.
don't let's not try to hide what you're trying to do, lah. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, yes. On one hand, yes, you're giving chances to people who would not have a chance at all.
Mm-hmm.
But come on, let's get this right. You're using their talent so that you can, win some fucking
Yep.
trophies, lah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So let's not be hypocritical about it, lah.
Yeah, absolutely. The morality here is clear. Like,
Yeah.
Saint Joseph's wanted Arthur, recruited him, and would have found tuition funds for him if he had played up to
Yeah.
expectations.
Sure.
When he did not, the school held the boy's future as hostage.
Exactly.
For a debt his parents clearly could never have contracted if the
Exactly.
school's recruiters had not come scouting grade school playgrounds for the boy.
Hmm.
No wonder St. Joseph's feels uncomfortable about their portrayal here. Its behavior seems like something out
Very
of,
capitalistic.
it's almost like it's out of Charles Dickens,
Yeah.
like yeah. I mean, this film is great. It's not only about the boys. It's not only about structural issues in American
Hmm.
society, but it's also about the ebb and flow of life over several
Hell yeah.
years. It gives it a novelistic feels,
Yeah. Yeah.
as the careers of the two boys go through changes so amazing that if this were fiction, I would say that it almost feels unbelievable.
Yep.
The filmmakers Steve James, Frederick Marks, and Peter Gilbert shot miles of film, 250 hours in all. And that means that they were there for several of the dramatic turning points in the lives of these two young men.
Yeah.
For both, there are reversals of fortune. Life seems bleak and then is redeemed by hope and sometimes triumph. I was caught up in their destinies as I rarely am in even fiction movies, because real life can be stranger than fiction, can be more inspiring than fiction, than fiction, or can be more harrowing than fiction. I think many film goers are reluctant to see documentaries for reasons I don't understand.
Yeah.
The good ones are frequently more absorbing and entertaining than fiction. Hoop Dreams, however, is not only a documentary, it also feels poetic and novelistic. It also feels journalistic in its exposés.
Yeah.
It's one of the great movie going experiences of my lifetime. That's why I consider it to be, in my opinion, one of the best sports documentaries of all time.
Sure.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Hoop Dreams before we move
I
on?
mean, I kind of agree with you there.
Yep.
It's just because this kind of slice of life kind of feeling too, like you get
Mm-hmm.
this. I mean, but at the end of the documentary, you can't believe how involved you are with these kids, and
Yep.
it's just yeah. But there's just that. Oh man, they're so close.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, Hoop Dreams is a definitely must see. Like if you have never seen it before, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's available on YouTube.
Yes, it's available on YouTube, but also available on the Criterion Collection
Yeah,
if you're subscribed to that.
and this is an
Uh,
interesting thing also. If you want to kind of find out what's happening with Arthur and William, they actually have a podcast called Hoop Dreams, the podcast.
oh shit! You googled them.
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the research on them, lah.
Yep.
Yeah, so they've actually discussed post their documentary of their lives and a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
other things they're doing. It's more about like how sports and entertainment, about social inequalities, choices young people make, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure from agents. So it's a bunch of, and they bring in like people who like Isaiah Thomas came on the podcast,
Oh,
that
amazing.
kind of thing. Like, so it's actually quite an interesting thing if you want to find out like post dreams 30 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing nowadays. They have a podcast. Lah.
That's great.
Yeah.
As they should, lah. As they should.
Yeah. I mean, they have so much insight, especially being in the positions that they were in. Lah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll move on to Free Solo
Mm.
from National Geographic, available on Disney
Yep.
Plus, under the National Geographic section. I saw it at the projector a couple of years ago, and I think you did as well,
Yeah,
right,
I
Hadi?
did. Alex Honnold.
Yep, Alex Honnold. Okay, so ever since John Krakauer chronicled the disastrous 1996 season on Everest
Mm-hmm.
in the film Into Thin Air, there's been no shortage of books and movies about climbing.
Mm-hmm.
There is something about death being one errant footstep away that feels like catnip to armchair adventurers like us, staying at home, For the uninitiated, the rush of scaling seemingly unscalable peaks is hard to fathom. But even for professional
Mm-hmm.
climbers, there is a subculture of thrill seekers that even they don't
Yeah.
understand. This subculture consists of free soloists.
Whoa.
What are free soloists? They climb without ropes, they climb mountains without harnesses, they climb mountains without safety gear or any kind.
Mm-hmm.
One mistake and you're dead.
GG.
Um, Documentarians Jimmy Chin and Elizabeth Chai Vasaheli, and they document one particular free soloist in their exhilarating new documentary, Free Solo. It focuses on one of these daredevils, who is a lanky, socially awkward 33-year-old named Alex Honnold, who in 2017 set out to scale the 3,200-foot sheer granite face of Yosemite's
El
El Capitan
Capitan.
with nothing more than his calloused
Yep.
fingertips and a film crew, some of whom were so nervous that they turned their backs to the cameras.
Yeah.
It was insane and it had never been done before, which made someone like Alex Honnold want it even more. Meanwhile, his mostly supportive girlfriend grapples with her lover's blasé attitude towards falling to his death back at sea level. If you are afraid of heights, Free
Yeah.
Solo isn't for you.
Nope.
I'm not afraid of heights, and even I had to watch some of its more vertigo inducing
Yeah.
moments through my fingers. What makes it more than just ghoulish voyeurism, though, it's how it paints a surprisingly rich character study of a young man and the obsession that drives him.
Yeah.
In the end, the answer may only be slightly deeper than because it's there. I want to do it because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But for 100 nerve wracking minutes, Free Solo brings us to one man's almost suicidal quest, and it does so with sympathy and grace and a ton of adrenaline. I love Free Solo, particularly because mountain climbing or climbing in general isn't a sport that I am intimately familiar with, like basketball or football or racing and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
So this brings you into the mind of someone who would do something so crazy. What do you think about free solo, Hadi?
Jeez. Oh my. I mean, there were moments of like, where you feel your balls shrink.
Mm,
Like this guy is okay. Alex Honnold, the subject of this film, right?
mm-hmm.
And his crazy, insane quest to climb El Capitan, without anything,
Yep,
is just a sight to behold. Great cinematography here and there, by the way,
absolutely.
right? Or just the visuals and all that, but the preparation that it takes and all that, the mental fortitude you have, the
Mm-hmm.
ability to kind of transcend life and death itself, because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, a slight mistake and you're dead.
Yep.
And I mean, I think the first part, if I remember correctly, the first part of the documentary, there was like an accident, where
Yes.
he injured himself in when with ropes and all,
As he was climbing El Capitan, he received news of a friend, a fellow
who
free
died.
soloist who had just died.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So it makes it even more real.
Mm-hmm.
The and more dangerous what he was trying to attempt. And I
Yep.
think the documentary captures this so well that the emotions of Alex, who is surprisingly fucking calm.
Yep.
Like,
He has to
yeah, he
be,
has to
right?
be. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how like chill this guy is, man.
Mm.
Like this guy, it's like this kind of guy. If you bring him to a haunted house, he'll be just chill throughout the entire thing. You
Yeah.
know that kind of ice coldness in his veins. Oh, and then, but also you see his triumphs and all that. You see how happy he was, when he did his phone call on the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was on that journey with him.
Right.
I mean, but from the safety of my fucking chair, lah.
Mm-hmm.
Free Solo captures this life and death thing so well. It captures the eccentricities of this culture,
Yeah.
subculture.
And of the man in himself too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does it so well that I can't help but be impressed at how crazy this man is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Free Solo, yeah, I think it's one of those documentaries where it really sheds light on this weird subculture. You know,
Absolutely.
uh,
Yeah. Um.
and because of it, then I went on to research Alex, and then I actually watched his podcast with Joe, and
Mm.
he's the exact same guy is in the
Yeah.
documentary, man. This guy is
Yeah.
just a crazy person. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know. There's no other words to describe it. It's just he's a crazy person.
He's crazy to us. He's crazy to even other mountain climbers. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
But
Yeah.
oh wow. Yeah. Again, I love the visuals of this. I love how the story was packed into this. There was this like B story, about his life and his trials and tribulations as well.
Sure.
His relationship with his friends, his girlfriend.
Yep.
All this were also explored. Yeah. It's a definite recommend, lah. Like, please go and watch this if you haven't. Just so
Oh,
you,
absolutely.
yeah, just so you
You
know.
know, like using like Honnold is like this man who is given to extreme focus, obsessive drive.
Yeah.
He lives a highly Spartan lifestyle,
Very.
meaning he lives out of a van and mostly
Mhm.
eats cans of beans
Yep.
warmed on a hot plate. His personality matches his ascetic
Yes.
lifestyle.
Yes.
Honnold doesn't talk much and is prone to bluntness when he does speak. He is socially awkward.
He is.
But though he might appear monk-like, Honnold is actually quite the opposite. He
He
is
is.
this thrill seeker of the highest order,
Yeah.
a rock climber with a fascination for free soloing. Why does Honnold do this? It's a question that is probably impossible to answer since there's no real justification for an activity like that other than simple passion.
Hmm.
Free solo instead is largely about, I think, the intensity of knowing a person like Honnold, of having someone so unusual in your life, and the ways in which he can excite or frighten people around him simply by doing his job.
Yep.
I think the mission at hand in Free Solo is climbing El Capitan, right? But the secret star of the film is Sunny McCandles,
His
who is
girlfriend.
Honnold's girlfriend,
Yeah.
who somehow manages to tunnel through the deep bedrock of Honnold's disposition and connect with him. Though Free Solo is following Honnold as he meticulously plots the path to climbing up El Capitan with
Hmm.
only his hands and feet, it's just as thrilling to watch his girlfriend try to convince him to live a slightly more normal, settled down life, even as she knows that he might plummet from a cliff the next day. The two filmmakers, Elizabeth and Chin, right,
Yeah.
are a married couple, and they are no strangers to climbing. They're climbers themselves, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But even to them, scaling El Capitan without ropes is something that has literally never been done before, and it's so complex that it requires Hornot to plan out every single moment of the route
Yeah.
by climbing it with ropes at first, you know, and safety gear
Yeah.
over and over again until he plans it out so meticulously that he can do it without ropes.
Exactly.
That process means that Honno, the filmmakers, and the girlfriend are acutely aware of the hazards ahead. Like they know every unsafe foothold, every tenuous crevice, you know. And through it all, Honno is so unperturbed, you know. And like you said, like the filmmakers delve into the specifics of his life history. They even look at a map of Honno's brain.
Mm-hmm.
His fear center is not dead, but is largely unresponsive to stimuli, says a doctor. But again, the filmmakers are not trying to solve the mystery of what might drive someone to do that.
Yeah.
The result is a documentary that's fascinated with the subject without being reverent, you know, one that is beautifully photographed, but it doesn't ignore the horrifying consequences of it fails. My favorite B plot of the film
Yeah.
focuses on the filmmakers themselves and the camera crew,
Oh my God.
because
Yes.
it seems like when they were filming him climbing El Capitan, because of the distractions of the camera crew, he frequently failed, right? He frequently dropped back when he was like wrecking with safety gear, right? So at least he wasn't so bad. But they were debating within themselves, the camera crew, like, do we try to capture him as he's climbing without ropes?
Yeah.
Are we going to risk his life?
Because
Is
honestly,
it on us if he dies?
exactly,
You know?
because you're filming when he dies, you are going to capture his death. If
Yeah, and it could be because of you that he dies. Your distractions, the camera, you
Yeah,
know,
and
people
that's a
talking.
whole
Yeah,
other documentary.
correct. Yeah, which they also covered in here, like their own ethical considerations
Yeah,
as a documentary film crew.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, Great film. It's such a gripping, rewarding documentary to
it is.
watch. One of the most death-defying. It's think of when you watch like Top Gun Maverick or Mission Impossible, Fallout, or things
Sure.
like that. You know, that is fiction.
Hmm.
And I know Tom Cruise does a lot of that shit himself, but there's nowhere near the level of watching something like Alex Honnold climb El Capitan without ropes. This is a real guy doing a real thing, and he might die at any moment. You know. I watched the film at first without knowing who Alex Honnold is, without knowing whether he died or not, which made it a bit more thrilling for me, a bit scarier
Hmm.
because I didn't know how the film was going to end. But I think even if you do know how it's going to end, it doesn't
It
remove the
doesn't.
sweaty
Yeah,
palms, you
yeah,
know, that you have watching this.
yeah.
Any final thoughts on Free Solo before we move
I
on?
mean, it's edge of the seat kind of entertainment.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
go watch it just because it's just bizarre. It's just interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, let's move on to a subject that nearly everyone knows about.
Well,
This is an ES.
depends on when you're
Say again?
born.
Oh, true, 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 true,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, yeah, true, true. This is about OJ Simpson, and it's an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary called OJ Made in America.
Hmm.
Now, okay, I sort of cheated a little bit with this pick
Yes.
because when OJ Made in America first premiered,
Hmm.
it premiered as a 7 hour film
It did. Yeah.
uh, at,
With an
at
intermission.
with an intermission, yeah,
Yeah.
at TIFF and Cannes and all of
Yeah.
that. But when it was transferred over to ESPN,
Okay, TV.
it aired as
Okay.
a 5 part documentary.
Yeah. For good reason,
So
lah.
yes, for good reason lah. But I classify this as a film because it was
A
originally
film.
presented as a film,
Correct.
and then it was later cut up by editors for the TV
Hmm.
presentation. But anyways, this film OJ Made in America comes 20 plus years after a California jury declared O.J. Simpson not guilty
Yeah.
of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson
Mhm.
and Ronald Goldman after a trial that changed the way people watch TV. The two best things on American television that year that this documentary came out was FX's People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story,
Uh-huh.
and then on the heels of that, simultaneously ESPN's O.J. Made in America.
So weird.
This, yeah, it was the OJ season lah that year. Remember?
That's like OJ's comeback.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, yeah. This 7.5 hour documentary is, in my opinion, the best piece of original programming that ESPN 30 for 30 has ever produced, and they have produced some great ones, a lot of great ones, but this is the best of them. Um, like ESPN 30 for 30 has spent the past few years producing some of the best sports documentaries around,
Sure.
but they have never previously come close to producing a work of this magnitude and power.
Mhm.
While FX's American Crime Story focused solely on the Simpson trial itself, that mini series wasn't particularly interested in OJ the man. It wasn't interested in his backstory,
Uh-huh.
his alleged victims, or even really whether or not he committed the murder. It was basically a legal drama, a compelling legal drama, but it was just a legal drama.
Yeah.
Made in America, on the other hand, is a different beast altogether. Ezra Edelman's documentary gets at the entirety of Simpson's story. While the murders and trial are certainly the centerpiece of the film, we start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Not the beginning of O.J.
Oh,
Simpson's
yeah.
life, although we do arrive there
Yeah.
eventually, but rather the beginning of O.J. Simpson's life as O.J.
Mm-hmm.
Simpson, the icon. Much of the film's, first part is devoted to Simpson's football stardom
Yeah.
over at the University of Southern California, where he won a Heisman Trophy in
He
1968
did.
and began building his reputation as one of the greatest running backs of all time. And partly due to its virtuosic storytelling and partly due to its sheer scope, Made in America often feels like several masterpieces unfolding at a single time. Simply as a documentary about law enforcement, the film is painstaking and enraging.
Mm-hmm.
It traces the racism and brutality that have marked the LAPD
Yep.
throughout the modern life
Rodney
of the
King.
city, right up to the 1992 acquittal of the four officers who were caught on video assaulting Rodney King,
Yeah.
an event that sent the city into cataclysms just 2 years before Simpson was arrested for murder. Many of the least sympathetic interview subjects in the film are cops. Starting with Mark Furman,
Yeah.
the detective who lies under oath about his own history of vicious racism and did catastrophic damage to the prosecution's
Oh
case.
yeah.
20 years after the fact, Furman seems vaguely repentant, but also kind of grossly self pitying, unable to see the murders of Brown and Goldman and the resulting trial as anything more than something that happened to him. It wasn't about him, it was about other people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tough talk about the other investigating officers as well. The men who 2 decades ago were so starstruck by O.J. Simpson that they disastrously botched his initial
They did.
interrogation, um, even though his history of domestic abuse was well known throughout the department.
That's juice, man.
Yeah, it's also a film about race in America.
Did.
Made in America is razor sharp and remarkably nuanced.
Yeah.
Back in 1996, the most incisive commentary on the OJ verdict came from Chris Rock,
Yeah.
who during a stand-up special remarked simply that black people too happy, white people too mad.
Yeah.
Edelman's film drives home the fact that many spectators who were so deeply invested in either a guilty or not guilty verdict had reasons that far exceeded the specific crime at
Yep.
hand. There were larger social political issues involved
Exactly.
beyond whether he did commit the murder or he didn't.
Uh-huh.
This apparently extended to members of the jury,
All right.
one of whom carelessly blames Nicole for her own death on camera by saying that she should have left OJ earlier, then admits that she voted to acquit as payback for the King verdict.
Yep.
And many of the conversations about justice that grew so heated that during the trial had little to
So
do
complex.
with the actual defendant, let alone the actual victims.
Agreed.
And the film is not just about those two things. It also draws out some of the thorniest schisms at the heart of the actual trial, and the public's responses to it. On one side there was this belief that OJ was the tormented embodiment
Yeah.
of race as an American cage itself. That no matter how famous and accomplished one becomes, there is simply no escaping the injustices of being black in America. On the other hand, there was the belief that race was a quote unquote card played by OJ and his lawyers, which was also true, that a man who throughout his celebrity had shown an abiding lack of interest towards the struggles of other black people in his community was now cynically exploiting those sympathies and political energy of that community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a testament to both Made America's remarkable sophistication and to the country's remarkably twisted racial pathologies that by the end of the film, one has the sense that both sides may have been equally right.
Yeah.
What do you think about Me America? And it was such a great triumph of a documentary, all 7.5 hours of it. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, it sheds light on a subject that I'm very passionate about: American football.
Oh, okay. I almost thought you were going to say murder, but okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, O.J. Simpson is. The documentary does very well to establish how much of a superstar O.J. Simpson was in terms of his skills on the football field. Honestly, one of the best running backs. He's in fact, I mean, recently the NFL celebrated its 100-year anniversary. Guess who's on the team?
Oh, AJ. OJ.
OJ's on the team, man. He's
Yeah.
he's 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 one of the 100 best players of all time, lah. And I mean, you cannot discount that, lah. As much as
Sure.
because on the field he was near unstoppable, lah.
Sure.
You
Yes.
know,
In the courtroom also.
and there was something about and one thing that the I think the documentary does very well is separate OJ pre and post, right? Pre
Yes.
OJ was this guy that was trying to run away from his blackness,
Mm-hmm.
and then post or during the trial it was OJ trying to find his blackness
Mm-hmm.
because he realized that he needed to be in the he suddenly represented the injustice of the justice system in America, and it was so weird because it was very kind of clear that he did it, right? But this whole tapestry of LA during that period of time was kind of marred by racial inequalities, abuse of the by the police forces, um, so many so many things nothing to do with the trial itself be, gave the trial but contributed to the trial's verdict, and that was something that the documentary does very well, where it showcased what was going on in LA during that time, and
Mm,
and,
perfect.
and how well they kind of paint this picture of the racial tensions of LA during that period of time
Yep.
in in contrast to the kind of person OJ was, you know.
Mm.
And yeah, you're right. OJ was this superstar. He was he was an up and coming actor at that period of time.
Yeah.
He really starred in a few movies, wrong. You know,
Naked Gun, stuff like that.
yeah, and he was going to become the next Jim Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And so it became it totally changed his image, lah.
Mm-hmm.
The people, it's suddenly all the
Oh.
white people that he has been cozying up to, right? They don't want anything to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is beautifully reflected, right, on the other show. What's the other show called?
American Crime Story.
American Crime Story.
Yeah.
You know,
The Ryan Murphy show.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Ryan Murphy show, and it kind of works like how you say, you kind of have to watch both, right, to kind of have this like dramatic representation, and then this documentary kind of like fills in the gaps as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for some reason I feel that you need to watch both.
Mm.
Yeah, just so that you can have this weirdly detailed understanding of the O.J. Simpson trial and how big it was in America.
Um, to people who may not be familiar, these two shows were made independently. They are not
Exactly, it's
like
not like they came at the same time or anything like that.
no, no,
Sorry,
they
they
did
came at
come
the
at the
same
same
time, but
time
it wasn't like they were made to be released at
in
the same time.
conjunction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was so bizarre. So yeah, whatever it is, O.J. Simpson had a comeback year that year. Um, Kudos to him, but I think if I remember correctly, he was actually jailed for robbery like soon after that.
They thrown for stealing his own baseball cards.
Yeah, yeah,
But sorry, for football cards, yeah. But I think like you were talking about his fame, right? I
yeah.
think that is actually the most provocative aspect of the
It
documentary.
is.
It's covering fame
Yeah,
in America. Simpson's post football celebrity is how bizarre and amorphous it was. After his football career ended in 1979,
yeah.
O.J. Simpson worked as a pitchman,
Mm-hmm.
a bland one, as a sideline reporter,
Yep.
not a very good one,
Nope.
as an actor, an okay one.
Okay.
Uh, and after football, O.J. was just famous for being
Yeah,
famous, which is the most insidious kind of fame there is. And
it
yet,
is.
an adult lifespan accustomed to the adulation of millions who'd never known him clearly brought out some monstrous tendencies in his
It is.
personality. Simpson's well documented history of violence clearly stems from, at least in part, a sense of entitlement, and that violence was in turn enabled by countless people who were blinded by his celebrity.
Yeah,
And some of the people blinded by his celebrity were members of the LAPD. Made in America is also a movie about fame as well as addiction and pathology and crime and policing and race in
Yeah, it's
America.
yeah,
Yeah, the O.J. Simpson that emerges in this film is a man running harder and faster than he ever ran on the football field.
mhm,
And from the short period of his life before he became famous, to right after when he became a celebrity and then a criminal and then an infamous figure, Edelman's film repeatedly emphasizes the degree to which Simpson strove to not be black,
yeah,
not white, just OJ, and the lengths that Simpson often went to distance himself from his own blackness and black people, like you said,
yeah,
you know. That's a very, very good point. And in many ways, I found Made America to be some of the most fascinating and wrenching
yeah,
things
man.
from the sports documentary standpoint that I've ever seen. His post trial life has also been one of prolonged humiliation and degradation. It's just been this tawdry mess of scams and drugs and hangers on and bungling attempts to, in some way anyway, squeeze more profit out of simply being OJ Simpson.
Mhm.
You know, like you said, he spent the past 8 years in prison
Yeah, came out for
for a
good
botched
behavior.
robbery. He came out, yeah, but it was for a botched robbery attempt in which he attempted to steal his own memorabilia
Yep.
at gunpoint. Um, you know, it's quite an amazing story for good and for bad, lah. And OJ Made in America covers it all
Mhm.
in comprehensive detail. Yeah. Any last thoughts on Made in America before we move on to Senna?
Um, this, yeah, just watch it, just so you can
Mm-hmm,
understand the insane level of celebrity. Like America has created this culture of celebrity that surpasses any other country.
mm-hmm,
Like it's a very American thing, right? So this idea of worshiping celebrity,
mm-hmm.
and it's showcased here lah, amongst the mess of American politics, American racial uh, hang-ups, police brutality, blah blah blah. Things that again we are still discussing 30 years of not 30 years. Oh wait, actually yeah, 30 years from when it happens.
Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely highly recommended.
highly
Catch it on
recommended. Yeah,
ESPN 30 for 30. Also available apparently on Disney Plus
yeah,
because Disney owns ESPN. So
exactly.
yeah, you can catch it there. Now let's move on to Senna, Formula One racing legend. Audiences don't need to be familiar with or give a damn about F1, in my opinion, to get drawn into Senna, which is a finely wrought documentary about the Brazilian driver Ayrton Senna, known for both his incredible talent and his death at the age of 34 at the infamous 1994 San Marino Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
Senna is
Imola.
considered one of motorsporting's greats,
Yeah.
but Asif Kapadia's film also makes it clear that he was a sort of artist. His talent, accompanied by an unquenchable thirst for excellence and a belief that racing offered him a connection to God. He was very religious. Asif Kapadia composes Senna entirely out of archival footage of Senna on the track and off, preparing for races, relaxing at home, being interviewed by the press as his fame grew, and jittering in the corner of a car mounted camera as the road goes by impossibly fast beneath him. Contributions from commentators, friends, family, and even his rival Alan Prost take place over audio, with a speaker identified in text on screen. But the gaze is always on Senna as a young man competing in karting, what he calls pure racing, making his name in the rainy conditions in which he excelled, and clashing with F1 boss Jean-Marie Balestre in an uncannily dramatic arc, particularly at the height of Senna's competition with Prost, which spanned several years. Their relationship became genuinely antagonistic, one of the greatest rivalries in sports, and ended only when Prost retired after being faced with the prospect of being Senna's teammate for a second time. You know, Prost was nicknamed the Professor for his calculated approach. He was cool headed and adept with F1 politics, whereas Senna seemed to thrive on risks and couldn't help speaking out, sometimes to his own detriment. There's no better example of this divide that when, at the race that decided the 1989 championship, the two men ran off the road. They ran each other off the road. Senna returned to the track and masterfully won the race against all odds, though Prost successfully requested his disqualification for illegally cutting. Um, Prost isn't villainized though. His displeasure with Senna's aggression seems all too justified given the danger of the sport and what seems to be foreshadowing death anywhere. That threat of tragedy running through Senna isn't just due to awareness of how its subject died, as one of two drivers killed in an accident heavy race that led to the reevaluation of F1 safety standards. Senna himself, who was boyishly handsome, beloved in his home country, is a figure of melancholy too, so devoted to a sport in which the human behind the wheel is only one element. It would be impossible for him to meet his own standards. A lot of racing, it also covers how racing kind of devolved into this technological warfare that took the drivers out of the equation for a time. I thought this was a great documentary about a sport that I was not too familiar with, and about a figure that I knew of but wasn't familiar with either. You being an F1 fan, what do you think about Senna?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, yeah, a great F1 fan, right? I've been F1 fan since the days of Michael Schumacher. So
Hmm.
Senna kind of just predates that since
Yes,
his death in 1994.
Michael Schumacher was just coming up at that
Yes,
time, right?
correct. He was with Benetton at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I remember correctly, Senna was with Williams.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean, Senna is one of those kind of characters, or one of those athletes which are just one of those phenomenal athletes, or one of those all-time greats, the Michael Jordan kind of vibe,
Sure.
the ability to, that passion that is behind his driving, the way that he's so talented that other drivers can't believe what they're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
His amazing ability to race in the rain. Like, Senna is one of those all-time greats, and this documentary captures that quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially the non-racing aspects of it. Like,
Yep.
even though the racing aspects is covered really well, it is the post race, the Senna that is among the people, among his family, that that sheds light on the kind of character this guy is, lah. And
Mm.
he's a good son. He wants to do a lot of things for the Brazilian people, and he was one of those guys that just lived and breathed racing, lah. You know, I mean, it was just sad also as you see his life getting cut short, lah, and it's something that he loved doing, lah.
Yep.
And how he when a drive he was so passionate about racing, not only just for himself but also for the sport. You could see how he fought back against the politics that was happening around him. He was a character that was um, very complex, lah, in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yeah, his rivalries with Prost, his rivalries with the F1 governing body. You could
Mm-hmm.
see uh, all this this journey that he had to go through to become the best of there was, lah. And I mean, until today, people still see that Senna is one of the best drivers of all time, lah.
Yep.
The way that the cars were built that back then, where there
Mm.
was little aerodynamic control. It was basically riding a wild beast, lah.
Mm-hmm.
And those cars were even faster than today's F1 cars.
Yep.
It was at 1,200 horsepower. You had this, you had very little safety technology that exists today, like the Halo and all that, which protects, cars from drivers from being crushed by rolling and all that stuff. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah, so Senna was driving in a time where there were other great drivers as well, and that's one of the other differences, lah, between
I've
him.
heard the great drivers with different styles. I
Yeah,
love the contrast in styles with pros who's such this
yeah,
meticulous, proper
the
professor type
professor. Yeah,
driver.
yeah, exactly. They really,
Professor versus artist, was up
yeah,
their rivalry,
correct.
right?
They,
Yeah.
they had that. They fleshed that rivalry out so well,
Yep.
But by the end of it, even both of them were like statesmen of the sports. By the end,
Mm.
both of them in 1991, I think that was the last time that both of them will stand in a podium together.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of thing where both kind of grew and kind of had their own thing going on.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so again, Senna captures F1 the sport in this very romantic light,
Mm.
as well as the drivers. What makes a racing driver tick, lah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really well done. It's not the best F1 documentary out there.
What would you say is the best F1 documentary out there?
Right now, it's actually the TV series. Uh,
What is it called?
survive, drive to survive or something like that.
Drive to Survive. Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah. I've heard a lot of
that's
people talk about that.
yeah, but that's a TV series, so it's not counted, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But in your opinion, it captures the F1
Uh,
atmosphere better.
in a way, because it focuses on all the drivers, all the teams, that, and it goes through the entire season with you.
Sure.
Yeah. So in terms of that, lah, it does capture a lot. Lah. Yeah.
Right, right,
But in
right, right.
terms of
It's not a personal biopic like this
correct,
one was.
correct, correct.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of personal biopics, this is one of the best days
Yeah,
in F1.
Asif Kapadia actually does a lot of great personal biopics or biopic documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
He did one for Amy Winehouse,
Yes.
which is equally critically acclaimed. He did one for Maradona as well, which is also
Yes. I was just going to bring that up, the Maradona one.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Asif Kapadia is great at this type of documentary filmmaking, specifically focusing on one subject, their life from beginning to end,
Yeah.
and only using archival footage. You know what I mean? Like letting the subject tell his own story.
Correct, correct. Yes. And that's something I really appreciate in this one because all
Yep.
the words were from Senna, or
Yeah.
people who were around Senna.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, lah,
Yeah. Amazing.
yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it does well to capture the greatness of Senna and
Mhm.
respect Senna's legacy in the sport itself.
Oh, 100% agreed,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. Anyways, that wraps it up for this episode of Behold. As always, we cap it off with what's making us happy this month.
Hey,
So in this month for October, Hadi, what have you been watching, reading, listening to, playing, or whatever
so
is
lame.
making you happy?
I'm so lame, but the rookie is back for season 5.
Cool. Okay.
So that's my TV.
Cop show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is he still a rookie 5 years in?
No. He's like a corporal, but now
Oh,
he's
okay.
training rookies.
So the title still makes sense.
Yes,
Cool.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's one of my network shows that I've kept up over the years, lah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really enjoy it just because I love Nathan Fillion.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not one of his best works, by the way, but it still is. There's really cool storylines that are fun to go through week to
Mm.
week. Yeah, it's one of those guilty pleasures, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of network shows that I'm watching. I don't know why, but you know me, lah. I'm a network show kind of guy, lah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Still stuck in the 90s, huh?
yeah, man.
Yep. So, what are the other network shows that you've been watching that you would like to
Oh, it's
recommend?
another. It's a comic book, okay?
Comic book? Yeah, sure, fine.
Berserker Volume 2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's out too. I haven't read it yet, but I'm getting it. I just bought it, so I can't wait to read it.
Okay.
Yeah, Berserker Volume 1 was awesome. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It's again not the best comic book. It's just that I really love Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of thing, lah. You know me, lah. Looking forward to reading Volume 2 soon.
Yep.
Yeah, how about you?
Several recommendations this month. Rami is back for season 3.
Oh yes.
Created by the Egyptian American comedian Rami Youssef.
Mhm.
This series has been a thoughtful, artful, and complex depiction of a young Muslim man
Yes.
struggling to reconcile his religion and culture with more contemporary millennial anxieties in the
Mhm.
Western world. Season 3 continues to keep up a very, very high level of dramedy.
Mhm.
Atlanta for Muslims is what I like to call Rami.
Yeah.
And season 3 is its strongest season yet.
Mm.
Another TV show that is debuting or returning this year or this month is Babylon Berlin season 4. I really, really love Babylon Berlin,
Yeah.
as I think Hadi knows.
Yeah.
It's a German show set in Weimar, Germany, which is the era that is between World War One and World War Two. So it's post World War One,
Yeah.
pre World War Two. It follows a German detective who is, a homicide detective, and it delves into the world of nightlife, criminals, political agitators, communists, fascists, liberals who are fighting over the heart of Germany post
Yeah.
World War One. And right now in season 4, it's kind of devolving into the fascists are winning.
Mhm.
So the end is coming. Really great depiction of an era of Germany that not many other dramas have ever covered before. In fact, I will go so far as to say as no other drama has ever covered this era of Germany specifically. They always either cover World War One or World War Two
Or post
or after World War Two
Yeah.
or the Cold War.
Yeah. When it
But
was
this middle
Berlin.
era is very fascinating.
Sorry, when it was East and West Berlin. Yeah. This one Weimar is very. Yeah, post World War One because it was such a depressing time for Germany.
Yes, but also at the same time, also a very free and liberal time. It was when Germany was an extremely liberal government.
It was.
Uh, yeah, so which is why nightlife was thriving, which is why the criminal underbelly was thriving.
Mm-hmm.
The communists were on their way up, clashing with the liberals, and
Mm-hmm.
because of the communists and liberals fighting each other, they sort of
Yeah.
neither of them saw the fascists coming up, the Nazis coming up.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, great depiction of that era. Mob Psycho 100, one of my favorite animes, is back for season 3 as well after a 3-year
Oh,
hiatus.
nice.
It comes from the same creator as One Punch Man, but hot take here, Mob Psycho 100 is funnier, smarter, and an all-around better show than One Punch Man. And
Sure.
I think it continues to be the case in season 3.
Mm.
One of my favorite documentary parodies, a show called Documentary Now, is back after a 5-year hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
Documentary Now pretends to be a long-running news magazine series,
Uh-huh.
and it is introduced in the midst of its 50th season. It's kind of akin to ESPN's 30 for 30,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's currently in its 4th season or the 53rd season, according to the show's universe. And this obscure gem on IFC continues to delight with a wide range of peculiarly precise spoofs on iconic non-fiction movies ranging from The Artist is Present to Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Uh-huh.
More than just superficial jabs at the format, it's genuinely startling how accurately each episode imitates the style and tone of the documentary that it's parodying. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, go check out Documentary Now as well. Finally, on the TV side of things, I want to recommend Chainsaw Man, which debuts this week. Chainsaw Man is a very, very hyped manga about a guy who strikes a deal with the devil to turn various body parts into chainsaws. It's crazy, it's wild, it's absurd, and I can't wait to see how the anime adaptation captures its brutality and bizarreness in action format.
Nice.
In animation format, is what I
Oh
meant
my
to say.
god, can I give a few more not recommendations, but what I'm watching that makes me happy.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what the whole point of the segment is about.
This is so stupid, but it's more network shows.
Yep.
There's East New York,
Sure.
police procedural, bread and butter
hmm
of like network TV forever, right?
Yeah, alongside hospital dramas and legal dramas.
Exactly. So this one is
Yep.
it's more of how the post George Floyd and all that is how the police department want to conduct policing differently lah.
Mm.
Yeah, but then also still with the whole politics, with the whole the usual stuff like that we've
Yep.
seen in like NYPD Blue, that kind of thing. This is from the creators of NYPD Blue, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's quite interesting. Jimmy Smith and Manel Warren did the stack cast lah.
Okay.
And it has, I mean, from the first 2 episodes I've seen, it has a lot of potential.
Okay.
Yeah. Another one is the rookie fats.
The what?
The rookie
Mm-hmm.
fats.
Okay.
So now it's about
A rookie federal agent.
yeah, but the oldest. So
Sure.
the first one is about the oldest recruit, rookie in the LAPD, right?
Sure.
So this is the oldest recruit in the FBI lah.
Okay.
There we go. So, yay! Oh, also
Awesome.
the reboot of Quantum Leap has premiered.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's fun. I guess we might be covering it for genre.
Whenever it ends, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We can you remind me when it ends, since you're
I
watching
will.
it, and
Yeah,
I'll assign you to it. Lah.
Ken. There you go.
Right, yeah. To cap it off, I got some non-TV recommendations. I
Nice.
don't know whether the next one is considered TV or not, lah,
Sure.
but it's Hassan Minaj's latest comedy
Ooh,
special
that
on
was a good
Netflix, The
one.
King's Jester.
I liked it.
Is very, very good.
Yeah.
If you miss Patriot Act, The King's Jester functions almost as a quasi sequel to Patriot Act,
Yeah.
because the majority of the comedy special deals with the consequences of his comedy on Patriot
Mm-hmm.
Act,
And it's like
the good,
motivations and all that.
noble intentions, the dangers that he faced,
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah. One particularly not funny, but turns out to be funny, but also harrowing story
Yeah.
of maybe anthrax falling on his baby.
Oh no,
It's pretty insane. It's a
it
great comedy
was.
special.
Yeah. A good job. I mean, for a sophomore
Comedy special.
comedy special, a good job again.
Yeah. Finally, there's a movie coming at the end of the month to cinemas
Adam?
in Singapore. Second?
Black Adam.
Uh, it's about black people, so sure. It's called The Woman King.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The Woman King is about the remarkable story of the Agoji, which
Hmm.
is an all-female unit of warriors who protected the African kingdom of Dahomey in the
Yeah.
1800s. It's about the movie is about the skills and their fierceness. It's unlike anything the world has ever seen, and it's not fake like
No,
Black Panther or Wakanda Forever or
it's
whatever.
not like
This is
some
inspired.
weird diversity thing that they're trying to do.
Correct. This
Yeah.
was inspired by true events,
Hmm.
and the Woman King specifically follows the epic journey of General Nansika, played by Viola Davis, as she trains the next generation of recruits and readies them for battle against an enemy determined to destroy their way of
The
life.
Oyo Empire.
And it's a very very interesting action-packed high octane film. So go catch the Woman King when it debuts in Singapore at the end of the
Yeah,
month.
I'm
So
planning
yeah,
to watch it too.
that wraps it up for this episode of Genre Equality's Behold podcast. We'll
Nice.
be back next month where we talk about Timothy Olyphant and
Oh,
Justified.
can't wait.
Can't wait! Or one of the greatest shows in FX history, and that
Yeah.
says a lot. Lah.
Hmm.
And because we are talking about Justified, I'm gonna find a way to mention Deadwood because most of the cast from
Probably
Justified is
would.
also in Deadwood.
Yeah.
Timothy Olyphant playing the same character he's always played in Deadwood,
Just
in
modern day.
Justified, in The Mandalorian, in The Good Place randomly. So yeah, but this is the road that made
Yeah,
Timothy Olyphant lah. Yeah,
definitely, 100%.
absolutely. Till next time though, this has been Hit Zero.
I'm Hardy.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye bye.